Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody. My name's Ron. I'm an alcoholic. How you all doing? We got a couple announcements real quick before we get started. Try to grab them seats and let's get this party rolling here. On 3/24/18, Peter M. will be up here from Boca Raton, Florida. Very spiritual speaker, very good friend of the Conscious Contact Group. Please, if you're in town, make it a stop. Well, the flyers are on the back table. We have flyers from everywhere. If you have flyers from any AA function going on anywhere, please bring them and put them out there so we can all stay connected. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown has a Facebook page. And in that, not only do you keep up with what we do here, the weekly or monthly little flyers, but things that go on in like the tri-state area, all kind of little workshops, conventions, roundups. It keeps everybody connected. And so there's no reason not to be able to have all this stuff at our fingertips with this modern day of technology. It's really a great thing. This is a day not to forget. 4/21/18 is our anniversary here. We have Mickey Bush coming in from California. He is not to be missed. He is an owl. It will be a mini one-day convention. It will start approximately 10 a.m. and it will run till 9:30 p.m. with like 7 different speakers, a free lunch, which we love to do because we always get those sponsors who say there's no such thing as a free lunch. We tell them bring them along. We got it in Doylestown. So come out and have some fun with us. It's all absolutely free. Our sister group is a big book study. It's back on the table. The flyers. It meets on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street. It's right about a block away from here. And so if you find something you like, you come visit us over there. We love that big book for some reason. I don't know. The guys that hang around that and stay in that big book usually walk around pretty happy, joyous, and free. So we try to hang with them, and it's like-minded people seeking recovery. Daryl's going to come up and do a great job, so enjoy the night and do not clap for me.
Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Daryl Nixon. I'm an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, at 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, PA. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here in this room. The purpose of this group is to provide a constant message of hope and recovery through God-reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, please simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Welcome, Shane. Cal, welcome. James, welcome. Hey, Krista, welcome. Hey, Dan, welcome. Excuse me? Welcome, Chantel. Hey, Mike, welcome. Hey, Al, welcome. Is there anyone else? Right there. Here we go. Amanda, welcome. Is that it? All right, let's get on. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship with anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor. Please raise your hands. There you go. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, kind of stuff in alcohol. April 13th, 14th, and 15th is going to be a roundup out of Cape May, New Jersey. It's going to be held by CPA, which is the Southeastern Pennsylvania Youth Association. Today's Food Fun and Fellowship. There won't be no dope, no drugs, no alcohol. So when it means Food Fun and Fellowship, the meetings on the beach, there will be a dance and a social. I'll be there. I hope to see you guys there.
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? All right, that's it. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar. Can put donations in a jar on the table marked Big Book and CD donations. If you would like a CD of any speaker, past or present, see me or Ron before or after the meeting. They are available for free of charge. Can't beat that. And I asked Carly to come up here and read the AA preamble.
Good evening, I'm Carly, I'm an alcoholic. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contribution. AA is not allied with any sect, domination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorse nor oppose any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I've asked Chris to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will and for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs.
All right. The seventh tradition, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops, etc. There's absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now introduce the speaker. The speaker is Dain J. from the Primary Purpose Group of Connecticut. He's a good friend of the Conscious Contact.
A little taller, I'll get it down. Good evening, everybody. My name's Dain. I'm an alcoholic. You hear me all right? Right out of the chute, I got to thank Ron and his whole crew for inviting me to come down here to Doylestown. And it's an honor to be asked anywhere. I remember the days when it was nice to be wanted by the cops because nobody else wanted me, and so when I get invited to these kind of things, you know, it's pretty cool. And I walked in, and I was down here, what was it, November? And what a great time I had. And just walking into church and being with the crew that's assembled down here, the energy was just amazing. And tonight, I got here early with Chris and my beautiful wife, and Rhonda, and we were here probably about an hour early. And it was nice to be here early because people are coming in, and I'm saying hi to people, and little by slowly, I'm hearing God's music just getting a little louder and a little louder. You know, I hear people ragtiming over in the corner and out in the hallways, and I hear that laughter, and it's just an amazing thing. And the privilege to be here and be a part of that is an amazing, amazing gift. And even more so, you know, we talk about in our 12-step, carry this message. It's here, alive and well. And what is this message? The awakened spirit. And everybody sitting in this room here tonight, I mean, I feel the juice. I'm plugged into that. That's an awakened spirit. You know, this deal is not so much to me as being sober. I learned a long time ago that any of us can be sober. I could be hanging out on C Block in Cheshire, you know, doing a 90 bid. And I could be sober if I don't want to buy into having the trots by drinking Bruno or saving up commissary, you know, and building a little store, you know, and selling that so I can cop a bag or buy some dew or whatever. And I mean, this thing really works a whole lot better, doesn't it? Sober, you know, if we're not using substances. But it's truly about the awakened spirit. I look around this room and I just see smiles. Where there was the absence of that for a long time. And I see the light of God in people's eyes. And I think everywhere we go with the awakened spirit, we can see the presence of God. And that's a beautiful thing. So I really do appreciate being here tonight and being in this room with you guys. You know, you're my tribe, my family. And I knew that when I showed up here on the Wings of Victory, totally beaten, broken, shattered. My sobriety date is November, somewhere around 17th, so my sponsor at that time assigned me the 17th. That was a little foggy the way things were going, 1991. I have a home group. It's a primary purpose group in Waterbury, Connecticut, and we study the book line by line, sentence by sentence, and paragraph by paragraph, and it's a lot of fun. If you guys are ever up in the neck of the woods, my phone number's out there, along with a lot of the crew. Look us up, stop on by. Always welcome. Cup of coffee and some smiles and some laughter. And that music that we talk about, God's music, is always prevalent. I have a sponsor. He has a sponsor. And I have a group of guys that I work with, and they work with me. And I sponsor a lot of men. I have the privilege to do that. And that's pretty awesome, because every one of those guys, whether they got 3 weeks or 30 years, they have a 10,000-foot view of me, and I absolutely need that, the way I roll, and that's a beautiful thing. I spin it down into my beginning. I had a pretty interesting childhood when I was a kid. Very small family. One brother, he was developmentally challenged, a year older than me, and my mother and my father. My dad was an alcoholic. He was a workaholic. He was a really good man. He taught me a lot of things that I didn't recognize for years until I had the privilege to show up here and really examine, you know, what went on. Not the delusionary stories that I had in my mind for years about what my dad was, because he was an alcoholic and he wasn't who the person I thought he should be. My mom was a tremendous Al-Anonic, and she certainly could have used a little bit of an Al-Anon program. We didn't have a lot of extended family because she was always busy managing my dad's drinking by eliminating any of the relatives and by eliminating the holidays and by eliminating friends coming over and, you know, just keeping the whole household, you know, pretty sterile. But, you know, my dad was, you know, like I am. Or maybe like some of you sitting out here tonight, you know, pretty crafty at getting what he needed, when he needed to get done what he had to get done. And I can't say that the household was in total chaos all the time. You know, my mom and dad, you know, they had the brouhahas. I was gifted with the responsibility of watching my brother and taking care of my brother as I came up in the younger years, and I was always stepping up for him because he wasn't like the other kids, and nobody really knew what was going on with him at that time because they didn't have what they have today. So he started off in school like kindergarten and made first grade, and then Brother Will was taken out of school. I had no idea why. but he's not attending, but my battles for him didn't stop there. You know, I always stepped up to the plate, but I'll tell you, I didn't like the job assignment at all. And my mom worked, and I caught a lot of stuff, you know, doing the chores around the house and taking care of him. And, you know, as a kid, I was wrapped around the axle. I was just so damn dissatisfied, you know. It's, you know, the life that I was living, you know. I mean, real men at the age of 7 was out playing cowboys and Indians. They weren't cleaning and dusting in the house and watching their brother, if you get what I'm saying. I'm like, it's because of my brother, and of course, then it's because of my mother, and so it's my brother, my mother, and my father. And, man, I carried that through a lot of years. It was him, it was her, it was them. It was always everybody else's fault. And I just had that internal angst. And I was constantly unsettled and up against it. And being what the family situation was, I'm bearing the weight of success on my shoulders because my folks, you know, threw all their chips down in front of me on the table, you know. Here's our only son. He's going to be successful no matter what. You know, so I'm being jammed into violin lessons and, you know, and fortunate and unfortunate, I had an innate ability to play the violin, and I could have whatever, you know, God would have taken me in some place with that ability. And I exercised that to a certain point, and I threw it away when I claimed my independence. I'm no longer going to live under your rule. And I established that somewhere when I was around the age of 10 or 11. And around that time, we had next-door neighbors. They owned a grocery store down the bottom of the hill where we lived, Cut Spring Grocery. And me and a couple of the real tough guys went down there one evening after they had closed, and we broke into their cellar, and we got into some long necks. And I think it was Rheingold or whatever. But I never forgot that first drink. We were down in the cellar, and that was a very exciting thing as it was. You know, I'm vibrating like, whoa, because we know we're doing something that's like totally off the charts. And if we get caught, we are like in really serious trouble. Big trouble. You know, and now we're dragging out these long neck bottles, and that first beer, I remember taking a few slugs of it. I didn't like the taste, but you know what? I remember that psychological sigh of relief that I got from slugging down some of that beer. It was just like, everything just kind of smoothed out a little bit. And by the time I got through that first bottle, I said, I know that I'm going to do this a little bit more. You know, I had that relief from that angst, that wind-up business about, you know, how I had to do this and how I had to look after that and how I had to stand up for this and all, you know, I can't go out and I can't play with these, you know, and all that stuff. It just disappeared, you know. And I had my first spiritual experience with the spirits right there. And that was to continue on for a long while. I just careened down that path, and God knows how I made it through school. A lot of stuff I brought into the family. You know, I was able to hook up with the real good guys, so to speak. So by 14, I'm boosting cars and we're ripping them down for parts and selling that stuff. And at that time, we go down to New York, and I'm 14, going on 15, and we're drinking down in New York, in Port Chester, Rye, the Square Tavern, the Happy Tavern. And for life of me, I think about that today, and I'm going, man, I must have looked like a little baby in there, but they still served us anyway. They didn't care, you know. And we're getting jammed up left and right. You know, we got the bar fights. You know, we took and we went to one place. I don't remember where it was, but we destroyed it. You know, and they came down to pick us up. We're locked up, and I'm getting arrested. And the cops are coming to the house on almost a regular basis, and I'm not seeing any of this. I'm just being inconvenienced by these people coming, knocking on the door, you know, hey, Bill, where's your son? You know, blah, 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 blah. And I'm showing up in juvenile court. And I'm not thinking about the shame that I'm causing my mother and father, that I'm bringing to the family. I'm not thinking about my mom or dad, you know, maybe they had some hopes built up on me. I'm not thinking about my mom and all the stuff that she's going through, trying to manage life and having these problems with my dad because he's an alcoholic. I mean, he was losing cars left and right. And back in that day, we're talking the 50s, I remember he lost his license. And it was like for a long period of time, and that just didn't happen back then, so it had to be something pretty serious over that. So she's got all this, and I'm not thinking about any of that, there's no selfishness or self-centeredness centeredness in that at all, right? And I just continued on this road. I got to a point and I found myself standing in front of a judge, and he's looking down over at me, and he's saying, this is about the last time that I'm going to see you here. He says, I'm going to give you two choices. He says, you're either going to go into service or you're going to jail. Because I never want to see your face in here again. I'm sick of you. And I got that. And here's the funny thing. For the longest time, I used to stand on the fact that, I did the noblest thing going, that Dain joined the military. And, I rolled with that for a long time, not even thinking. But the honest to God's truth was, I really didn't have much choice. It was either step over the line, take a commitment, or get thrown in the can. So I took that commitment. I went in the military and went to basic. I did some other training. I went overseas. Vietnam was going on at that time, and I spent quite a bit of time there. I had a lot of experiences, and there's no stories to tell in that whatsoever because it's mine and my experience only. I do remember there was a point in time in that military career there that there was a switch that got turned off, and life to me at that point in time didn't mean nothing, and it didn't mean nothing to a lot of the people that I was with, which wasn't a lot of people. And I finished up my career, and I rolled back here to the States, and they turned me loose in general population, which was absolutely insane because I was absolutely insane. A lot of things had changed in my time there, and profoundly so, but I didn't know that. I hooked up with a guy, and he had a lot of acreage up in Maine, and he spoke my language that was unspoken. He was a vet, and he let me go live on his property, and when I say live on his property, that's exactly what I did. And I wasn't living in a house, and it was a pretty interesting experience. And one night a young lady came up, and there was women coming in and out at that time, and she had an interest in me, and of course I was interested in anything as long as I was loaded. And it wasn't any warm, fuzzy communication that we had or any romantic interludes or whatever. It was like, hey, you want to? Sure, why not? And, I says, well, why don't you stay with me? I got a great place, and I'm living in the woods, So we started a little romantic, relationship out in the bush. That was a good role. That lasted, for a little bit, and I think she got kind of tired of maybe the crows or the blue jays, or maybe just the wet clothes, dirt floor, and she managed to talk me into hauling out of there, and we hauled back to Connecticut, and I began the clean-up process, and she began trying to clean me up. That relationship, needless to say, lasted for a little while, and I really tried to squeeze a size 12 foot into a size 9 shoe, if you know what I'm saying. I just couldn't meet the deal. I couldn't live up to anything. And I was trying. She was a nice girl. I tried to show up for work, and I couldn't. And I'd get another job, and I tried to keep it, and I couldn't. And I tried to keep a car, and I'd smash it up, and I couldn't, and it just went on and on and on, and it was a real crap show, and that's the way my life rolled, for a while, and I went from one lady to another lady, and always with that chant that at the end of it all, my God, that woman was absolutely crazy, and never thinking about how she was before I met her. She was probably pretty well squared away. I had that effect for some reason. Can't understand it, but that's just the way it was. So I just continued on with this, and it just was a crap show, and one day I kind of came to, and I know this sounds a little crazy, but I realized, I got 3 little kids running around, and I'm married to this gal that I really don't even know. And I mean, that's an awakening in itself, right? Wow, what is this? And she's hollering and screaming all the time, and I, she's just driven by so much fear. There was never any quietness, and God love her. It's understandable today, that's for sure. Because look who I was. And I'd gone from job to job, as I said, and I landed in the refuse industry, and that was a great place for a guy like me. I did some welding, I did a lot of truck driving, and I could come in at 2 o'clock in the morning, work all day. It's kind of like your own boss if you're out there driving, and nobody cared, if you had a bottle underneath the seat. Nobody cared if you had a bottle on the passenger seat. As long as you went out there and you picked your garbage up. And I can't say that the guys I worked for were straight shooters, so to speak, because they were just involved in a lot of other businesses, and the garbage was just kind of the thing that they put up in front, as the poster employment deal. And so I didn't really care much as long as the thing got done. And I did that for quite a long while, and I moved into a bigger company. And there was a gentleman there by the name of Kevin, and he was the manager of the drivers. He managed the office, and he was a super guy. I didn't think so at the time, but I used to roll in to drive front load at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. I always like to try to get in the barn before the other guys and get out. And my drinking had got to a point where to get up in the morning, I'd have to slide open that nightstand drawer, I'd have to pop the top off a pint of vodka, I'd slug a little bit of that down, maybe half or whatever. I'd race to the bathroom, I'd hang onto the sink, do the vomiting calisthenics, get a few more shots down, stumble down the stairs, and out I'd go, so-called to work. And that's the only shard of dignity that I hung on to, because when I got into the refuse industry, it didn't matter if I didn't show up on this day or that day. They'd had somebody to sub, and I really thought that, I was an accomplished fellow, and I was really being a good employee because I was managing to hang on to this thing. But that gave me a little sense of dignity, and there wasn't not much else that was going on in my life at that time that was giving me a sense of dignity. And all through this, all through my earlier years, with the drinking and all this crap, I got to tell you, folks, I was handed sufficient reason to stop or moderate time after time after time after time. Rolling the cars, getting busted, getting beat up, all the crap that happens time after time after time. But I never saw any of that as an opportunity, because I never saw any problem with the alcohol. None. We talk about pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I remember, like it was yesterday. It was a Friday. We get paid on Fridays, and I got 3 or 4 of the boys from the barn hanging out at the apartment, and I got a little 2.5-year-old son. He's a carrot-top, freckle-faced kid. And one of the guys is loaded, and I am totally crap-faced. I'm telling him I'm going to give him a ride home because he can't drive, and I should drive him home. And this little kid runs all excited and gets his little jacket, and he's standing there with his little jacket, so excited with his daddy that he's going to go for a ride. And I pass out one more time on my face. Next morning, I show up at the barn and at that refuse industry, and the guys are there, and they're like, "Oh, you should have seen yourself again. Man, your kid was standing there with his little coat in his hand, and you just passed out right on your face. Oh, and he was crying." And let me tell you something. I don't do shame well at all. And I went right to rage. And we're into the fisticuffs, and it's just another mess. So the pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization that we talk about, and that from the book, we take a look back in the history of our lives. I mean, time after time after time. It is not enough. Not sufficient. But God would have his way with me, because I got to a place and I was so shattered that I woke up one morning, came to. I never really woke up. And I didn't slide open that nightstand drawer. And I didn't crack that pint of vodka. And to something that I had no idea, no concept, no relationship, no nothing. And something that we hear so often in these rooms. God, help me. I was at that place. No idea what I was uttering that helped me to. But I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I was done. I was shattered. I was broken. I can't tell you that I was desperate. And I cried out to something that I cannot hear, see, feel, smell, or touch. And the power of God was immediately active in this drunk's life, because I didn't crack that pint. And I can't tell you about the next few days that followed after that with a 5-gallon bucket, because I stayed in that bedroom and it wasn't a good time. And periodically I have some crazy stuff in my head these days with delusions, etc., etc. But I got to tell you, that period of a few days, I really had some crazy crap going on in my head, and I had no idea which end was up. And when I came out of that, I remember going back into that same bathroom that I hang onto that sink and do those vomiting calisthenics on, and I looked in the mirror, and it was the first time in a long time that I seen this face clearly. And I can't tell you the amount of self-loathing that I had for myself. But a man that was looking back at me. And I remember saying to myself, you know, you're really a cocky Rocky, aren't you? The tough guy. All the crap that you've gotten through in your life. All the stuff that you've survived. Crawling through the mud and the blood. And you can't manage this. No, I can't. As I said, the only shard of dignity I was hanging on to was with this job that I thought was, was it, and that was me. I thought, I was my job, and I got on the horn, and I called Kevin, and he said, I'm so glad you called me, Dain. He says, I've really been worried about you. Now, this is the guy who used to ask me on occasion, were you drinking last night? And I always gave him the drunk's response, oh, yeah, I had a couple. Never stopped me from driving. He never stopped me from anything. But he was there waiting for that phone call. He said, come on down to my office, I want to talk to you. And I got in the car with a belly full of shame, guilt, and remorse, and I rolled down that hill, and I rolled into the Cheshire Yard. And I walked into that office, and where the schedulers were, and where the RIF guys were, and the scale guy, and I felt about that big. And his office door was open, and he said, come on in. And he closed the door behind me, and he came over and he gave me a hug. And he said, you're going to be all right. Believe me when I tell you, you're going to be all right. See, what I didn't know is this man was a member of the Al-Anon family group. Now, there's a surprise. Thank God for the Al-Anons. And kudos to everyone that's sitting in this room here tonight, because you're certainly an integral part, I believe, of all our sobriety, the startup of this fellowship. And he was an Al-Anon because he came from a large family of Irish descent, and his father, and all his brothers and sisters. 7 of them were all drunks. And he missed the bullet. Go figure. Tell me now that's not the hand of God. Nobody could convince me otherwise that wasn't the hand of God, that man was sitting there waiting to receive me. He never pushed anything about me getting sober. He never pushed any of that business. Because he was smart enough to know he didn't want to spoil the opportunity with this drunk. But he knew me. He saw through me from the first time that he met me. And God, working through him, delivered me to you. I got to my first AA meeting. I don't even remember where it was, but I got to my first AA meeting, thanks to him. And I couldn't look at any of you. And I didn't want to know any of you. And I sat in the back. And I'm sweating. And I'm shaking inside. And I am terrified. Terrified. And I have no idea what fear is. I got the 4 horsemen. They are just trotting over the top of my head. Terror, frustration, bewilderment, and despair. Oh, yeah. I don't know, what end is up. I have no idea how to even integrate with anybody. Because I had been separated so long from all of you, my brothers and sisters out here. But I kept coming. And I stayed in the back. And one of the beautiful things about the fellowship that we have here is the amount of love that we can get. And I talked earlier about God's music being here and the awakened spirits. I know today that somewhere inside of me, in the lowest place, I was attracted to that. And I stayed. As scared as I was, as shattered as I was. And the fellowship embraced me. Little time begins to pass and I'm still showing up. And I'm starting to feel pretty good because I'm not drinking. This is a whole different deal. And little by little, through going to a lot of meetings, I start learning the language. And I'm hearing these things like, don't drink even if your butt falls off. If you think you're going to drink, call your sponsor. Meeting makers make it. And I mean, great slogans. Bolstered me right up. And they kept coming. And now I'm getting involved. And I'm learning more of the language. They give you some jobs to do. I'm dumping ashtrays. I'm picking up chairs. I feel a part of something. And I hadn't felt a part of anything for years. That was precious to me. Absolutely precious. The fellowship you see in the love is nurture me along. Then I get the privilege and the responsibility to chair a meeting, and time is moving along, and my external world is really starting to get straightened up pretty good, and I'm cleaned up now, and I'm showing up on a fairly regular basis. Bills are getting paid, and it's just a whole different turn. And I'm thanking AA, the fellowship, for this, and why not? And I'm going to more meetings. I learned enough of language, and by this time I'm showing up at meetings, and Dain's starting to give good share. Wow, listen to him. Not too bad. You know, and then I get a guy who comes over to me and, hey, can you help me out with this? Oh, sure. Another guy, yeah, I'll help you out. And I got to tell you, I became a tremendous life coach. That was my skills, And then these cats, hey, call me every day, this, that, we're going to straighten out the world's problems, and, they get on the blower with me, and we do some rag timing, and, man, it could be 30 minutes, an hour session, she gave you a hard time. Well, I remember, I had the same thing happen to me. This is what you need to do to her, and I'm, just great stuff, and honestly, folks, as I moved along down the path, I had to go back and find some of those guys, which I did, and I made amends to them, that I didn't kill them with the crap that I gave them, and that they didn't get killed exercising the crap that I did give them. But that's a little later down the road. So this is what it looked like, and I'm just moving along. But there was a little bit of difficulty here. For years, I was treating an internal condition with external means. And my solution had been taken away. And I'm trying to substitute that with meetings and being a life coach and all the things that I would organize, like I'd get barbecues going and we had old-timer breakfast, young-timer breakfast, dances, and man, I mean, we're just whacking all this stuff down. And I don't know that I'm sitting on a two-legged stool and I'm really teetering. I have no idea that my ego wants me dead or that it'll take me loaded. None. And I'm still moving along on this thing. But as I'm moving along, that internal condition is just getting a little rougher and a little rougher, and I'm getting wrapped a little tighter and a little tighter around the axle. Until I find myself in a place like, are you kidding me? This is what this is? This is all there is to this. And I hit another wall. I had an experience where somebody gave me some cassettes, and I started listening to these guys. And of course, I'm dating myself with the cassettes, right? But I don't give a crap. And I started listening to these guys, and I am hearing stuff. Now, mind you, I was going to step meetings, I'm going to big book meetings, we're reading the stories, and I can't honestly tell you, if somebody at that point in time was carrying the message from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I can't tell you because I wasn't hearing it. So it's not condemnation to, where I was going or what was getting done or what wasn't getting done. It's all the crap. It's about all where Dain was at and what I was receiving, and I had to get to where God needed me to be to hit another wall, which is exactly what I did. And I started listening to these cassettes, and these guys were talking about stuff that I hadn't heard. And they're saying, this is from the big book. And now, the time that I had put in, coming to meetings, learning the language, doing this service work and all this other stuff that I thought was so great, and which is, but it's not sufficient to overcome my alcoholism because I'm the real alcoholic, right? And they're coming up, I built a value system, and these guys were coming up against my value system. And, if you come up against my value system, it's like that, my ego comes up like a hooded cobra, I am poised and ready, and I'm going to want to nail you, somehow, some way, because you're coming up against my value system. And I'm listening to this stuff, and I'm going, where is this coming from? But that began a journey for me. A journey of seeking something that really resonated within me. Something was missing here. Something was missing here. You see, that whole period, everything that I was doing was hinged on the fact that I wasn't drinking. And drinking was never my problem. But that's all I heard about, Drinking, or outside, outside substances, whatever. All the outside issues. Drinking was always my solution for that internal condition that I suffered from. It gave me a little bit of relief, time after time after time, and it worked until it didn't. Thank God for that morning when I reached out to something that I couldn't hear, feel, smell, touch, or see. So I was inspired, and I started seeking, and I'm going to conferences, and I started going to big book studies, and man, it was just an incredibly different language. And I'm talking to this one, and I'm talking to that one, and really trying to latch on to this stuff, and just having a new experience. And I latched onto a guy who had the willingness to go along, and he said, okay, there's a direction in the book, let's take it. If there's an action, let's take it. Let's follow this thing through and see where it's going to go. What an experience that was. And that really, really began a new journey for me. A lot of great experiences, and I'll fast forward to the privilege that I had to meet the man who is still today my sponsor. I was listening to a lot of their CDs. Him and his wife get out and get around the country, and I have to tell you, I had my biggest awakening a number of years into this deal. Huge. Because I had hit another wall. Even the stuff that I had begun to do wasn't sufficient. I had my experiences with doing inventory. I did them on the clinical level. I did them, with a great gal, who was a therapist, and it was nothing but a garbage unloading process. I didn't come out of it with the substance of anything except the fact that I got a big swelled chest, and hey, I did my 4-step and my 5th step. But that was sufficient to keep me moving along. Until I started doing the work with someone else, and all of that started to unfold for me. The true sense of being recovered. I met this guy he came up to Vermont with his wife, and I had been listening to him, went up there expressly to see him, and I was standing in the general store across the street from the Wilson house, actually, and I heard that voice, and I recognized it right away. And I introduced myself, and I was there with the guy that I was working with, and my son, who was newly arrived up here from Florida, and trying to get some traction to get sober. And that really began quite an experience for me. My ego was in such a place still, though, that at that particular point in time, as enthused as I was to meet this guy, I couldn't ask him for help. You see, I had, to some extent, became recovered, but I was still sitting in untreated alcoholism in a lot of areas of my life. And today, it's interesting, when I work with a new guy, God provides for me generally men who have time, so to speak, that are sitting on untreated alcoholism. And what a privilege that is. And what I will do with these guys is I generally take them right to page 52 in that second paragraph. And I run the drill on that. And I ask them yes or no answers. That's all we need. Are you afraid of misery and depression? Do you have a sense of uselessness? Are you having trouble with personal relationships? And we go through that whole paragraph. And I was in that place, but I couldn't ask him for help at that time. 3 weeks later, I see him in New York, and I went to New York because God moved me in that period of time in 3 weeks to the admission for myself that, something is really broken, Dain. And this man can help you. And I hooked up with him at a retreat. I sat down with him, and it's funny. He said, when he met me, he knew I was in trouble. And that was the energy that he was getting. And that began an incredible journey for me. I asked him, I said, will you take me through the work? And he said, absolutely. And it started there, and we started on the title page. You know, the first promise in the book. You know, how thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. And we ripped through the forwards. I had never looked at any of that stuff. Who looks at that? You know, let's get to the meat of the matter. You know, and I saw, you know, how incredible our fellowship is, just in the historical sense, how it grew from two men getting together at the Cyberville Estate in the carriage house into what it is today. We ripped into the doc's opinion. I get clarity now on what it truly means to be an alcoholic. Why is it, you know, when I start, I can't stop? And even more importantly, when I do stop, why can't I stay stopped? And we dig into this first step, and how is my life unmanageable? You see, it's not about the drinking. What's it about? It's about your thinking, Dain. How's that going for you? You got an abundance of experience in front of you that says maybe your thinking's not the best. Let's take a look at this. And we did. And I'll tell you what, when I got on the backside of that first step, I understood completely that I was hopeless. And what was absolutely essential at that point in time right there, which was something that hadn't been stressed at the level that it was being stressed at that time, was that I needed, unquestionably, a much deeper relationship with the God of my own understanding. I don't discount any of the experiences that I had prior to that moved me to that point, because God kept shifting me and moving me and shifting me and moving me. But I understood completely that I was hopeless, that I didn't have a shot. We took a look at that second step. Did I have a willingness to believe in something that was bigger than me, to restore me to sanity? Absolutely. And why not? You know, the main problem for Dain centers in his mind. And I did the same thing. I made the most insane decision time after time after time. I couldn't get in between my thinking when it came to spending sprees, when it came to, any of this stuff, sex sprees, you name it, work sprees. I got no power, and I'm not connected with anything. I'm too blocked to have that power work in me and through me. And at that point in time, I didn't even know it was that necessary. So when each step is cause for the next one. I moved out of that first step with a sense of hopelessness. I'm going to grab onto this. And I say, I'm not clear on having a relationship with a God of my own understanding, And I was given that simple exercise. We're going to take a look at your past associations, and then, why don't you just give me a list of what your present choices may be? And now let me tell you something, Dain. That's exactly how that power will show up in your life. You got a willingness to believe that? That's all we're asking you in this second step, is a willingness to believe that there's something bigger than you. And as the book says, something else, all through the book, a power greater than myself. I always thought I was the power. I get sober, but I'm still not too sane. I'm still thinking I'm the power. I'm running the deal, aren't I? But being crushed by a self-imposed crisis, once again, found me at this place, and I'm moving, and I'm acknowledging the fact that, I'm going to believe this can restore me to sanity. Our book has a beautiful definition of insanity. The lack of proportion, the inability to think straight. That fit me to a T. Because I didn't realize how big this thing was called alcoholism that I was up against. I didn't realize how much trouble I was in. So I'm too busy self-managing and running the deal. So I buy into the second step, I'm on. Whatever it is, I'm on. I set this present choice down. Okay, I got a willingness to believe this. This is by God, not yours, nobody's but mine. Highly personal. And let me tell you, my experience with that is amazing. How that is deepened, how that is enriching, how it just has shape-shifted and changed over these years. It's incredible. Done with second. Cause for third. What's that all about? Can you admit any life run on self-will can hardly be a success? Once again, let's put that abundance of experience that you got in front of you, Dain. What's it look like? Not too good. Not too good. Any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. What do you mean by that? And he shows me. We go through that toolkit of self-will. I see Dain plastered all over. That's a turning point, pages 60 to 63. A huge piece of information. My perception of the third step up to that point in time was, I'm going to grab some cat, get behind the dumpster at Denny's, get on my knees and say the affirmation prayer, and that third step is done. Boom, let's get into inventory. Wrong. That third step laid out for me, the toolkit of self-will. Hey, how I can be charming, how I can be gracious, modest, self-sacrificing, patient, this and that. When that ain't working, I'm going to turn the heat up in the kitchen a little bit. I'm going to be a little mean. I'm going to be a little egotistical. I'm going to run the deal. But as it says that with most humans, we got varied traits. Yeah, I got a wrench for every situation, and I've been applying it. I'm trying to wrest, seize by force, happiness and satisfaction out of life, managing well. How's that working for you, Dain? It ain't. My stuff is blowing up left and right and all over the place. It's crap. What can we do about it? Here's the how and why of it. Quit playing God. He's the director, I'm the actor. He's the principal, I'm the agent. He's the father, I'm the kid. Let's take a look at that third step contract. Stay close to me and perform my work well, and I'll provide everything you need. Are you willing to sign on to that? What I'm telling you right here, right now, says is, your life is no longer any of your business. If you're going to sign on to this, that's a big step to take. That's a big step to take. I was talking about the clinical inventories that I'd done and this stuff, and it was all productive to a degree. But I never even knew what I was looking for going into inventory. Getting down on my knees and saying that third step affirmation prayer, I had no insight to what I was looking for. And that's one of the things that make this AA a beautiful thing. We lay out the problem with step 1. We lay out the solution, step 2. Step 3, we give you the root of your trouble, selfishness and self-centeredness. This is what you need to be looking for when you go into inventory. And it's the roots of your troubles. We don't care about getting out here and trimming the branches. We got to be constantly going for the roots. And because of those actions, we're going to take you into inventory. You're going to see how you're showing up. And I got to tell you, this message can be transmitted in so many forms. It's amazing. I got real clear on that third because I saw me all over those 3 pages and how I was showing up. And I didn't like a damn bit of it. I got to tell you that right now. Not a bit. But who would? I was seeing truth for the first time in a depth and a light that I had never experienced before. Thank you, God. And when I did that affirmation prayer, I was on my knees in a basement on a speakerphone. And my sponsor was a couple thousand miles away. And at the backside of that affirmation prayer, here's 2 grown men a couple thousand miles away on speakerphones crying. A powerful experience because I was affirming the fact that God, I am offering myself to you to build with me. And he made me very clear on the fact of what that build with me would look like and to do with me as God would. He got me real clear on that. And he told me, you're going to be falling down, busting your knees and busting your elbows and busting your chin. And be grateful for every time you screw up, because that experience is going to be given to another man. Your God doesn't give you nothing for nothing. Powerful experience. And then armed with that, I'm reaching out into the dark for the hand of a newfound creator that was mine. And off into the inventory I went. And I did my resentments. And I made the mistake too of telling them, that, I called them up and I said, geez, I don't think I got a whole lot of them. I've been living in, and he gave it to me. He says, well, how about some people you might feel smugly superior to, or just a little better than? And okay, there was a little bit of an elixir. The pen started flowing right on that level. And then resentment started coming out. I had the opportunity, to lay out that third column, Take a look at, pride, self-esteem. Pride, how you're thinking about me in the community. My self-esteem, how I'm feeling about myself. Ambition, what I want to happen. I mean, all these things were so different than what I knew that, the definitions were for. Ambition was always thought, well, I'm going to get a new cleaning contract, or, I'm going to go on a 3-week vacation. These are all goals and lofty achievements that, that I want. No. It's just simply, what I want to happen. My security, what I need to be okay. So it was the facts that I listed in 3 columns. And then I faced those facts in my inventory in the 4th column. It was self-seeking, my fears, and fear driving all of this. I went into a fear inventory. Beautiful piece of work. And my sex and wrongful, harmful conducts to other inventory. Taking a look at my selfishness, my inconsideration, my dishonesty, the people that I had hurt, the jealousy and the suspicion and the bitterness that I had created. Taking an honest look at, what could have been done instead. And I put all this work together. And 2,000 miles away, I'm sitting in the parking lot and I do my inventory over the phone. God was present in every second as He is every breath that I take. Powerful experience. And I did that in the parking lot where I worked, and I went back into where I worked and into the bathroom, and the sink was my shelf, and I put my big book on that sink. I followed exactly what the book said. And I sat there. And I spent an hour, and I carefully reviewed those 5 propositions. Do I truly know what it means today to be an alcoholic? Do I believe that power can restore me to sanity? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? And I went through all 5 of those propositions. And out of the inventory, I came out with a list, and I was also given a list of some pretty crappy, objectionable behaviors about how Dain was showing up in life, how belligerent and arrogant, and how much I vacillated and indecisive, and slow to respond, and irresponsible, and I mean, the list went on. It was shocking. I mean, it was absolutely shocking. Come on. But it was all right there. And the way I was raised, steps 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all done in one continuous event. That's why I went into that bathroom and took the book down off the sink as it was on the shelf and proceeded with that. And I sat and I talked to my God and my own understanding about these objectionable behaviors, and I can't tell you, there were some of them on there I didn't have a willingness to let go. And there's some that I still have today. I haven't hit the bleach cycle and the rinse cycle, and I haven't been rendered lily white by any means. I walk on water, absolutely, but that's once a day when I take a shower. And I'm still hanging on to some of this stuff. And why? Because my ego knows it works. But I'm a little bit awake to it and a little bit aware of it. And then I hit my knees. My Creator, I'm not willing you should have all of me, good and bad. Why all of me? Well, I haven't done such a good job of differentiating the true from the false. I certainly don't know really how good is the good and how bad is the bad. It's only my perception. And I'm truly looking for a new pair of glasses, aren't I? in all of this. But I'm willing to have every single defect of character removed that stands in the way of my usefulness to you, God. And I get up off my knees, and I got a pretty good idea on that list. And those 3x5 cards come out, and I write the contact. And I was wrong too, I was wrong too, I was wrong too, I was wrong too, and I was wrong too. And that's the language that we use. This is the language that I use with my guys. There's nothing short of that. I was wrong, period. There's a great admission in that. How did this make you feel? How can I make this right? And is there anything else? Very interesting question. That can open some doors. Then it's set for that night. Start making amends. And I'm set out to do the toughest amend first. And why? 2 reasons. That third step is not consummated until I get 9 on the 9s and I'm making amends. God is helping me every breath that I take. But I can't experience that power until I am doing that specifically. And I'm making amends. See, I don't need to know God. I need to experience God. And there's no other better place. And I show up on the doorstep of that toughest amends, and my knees are knocking, and my teeth are chattering. It is not with Dain's power that is carrying me through to do this. That's God working in me and through me and showing me His omnipotence, what He can do. And as I'm engaged in that process, now we're doing 10s. As the book says, I've entered the world of the Spirit. What are we talking about here? That'd be a great conversation for a topic at a discussion meeting, wouldn't it? What's entering the world of the Spirit look like? If I come out of this transforming process, steps 4 through 9, I've got an awakened spirit. I see how I've been showing up. And I know how I don't want to be showing up. And I can get outside of my thought life a little bit, and I'm watching my thought life. I'm watching for selfishness, dishonesties, resentments, and fears. And when they crop up, I'm taking them to my Creator. Use the law of substitution. Ask right there at the beginning of it. Turn. Keep turning. Keep turning. Back to God. Back to God. Back to God. Discuss it with someone. Make an amendment if necessary. And then turn my thoughts to helping somebody. Now, that's pretty novel, But what a beautiful thing. Slowly, a little bit of that selfishness and self-centeredness, is getting peeled away. And that's good. I can work with that, as we can talk about that for, a whole lot of time. I can work with that all through the day. I roll into 11, my evening review. It tells me how I was doing my work through the day. It's my safety net for the stuff that I didn't catch, that I wasn't awake to. When I fell asleep, I fall asleep. Absolutely. And I answer the questions. Then I ask God for corrective measures. And sometimes I can go to bed feeling a little bit crisp and a little bit clean. Sometimes I don't like the corrective measure answers that I get from my God, but, I roll with them anyway because that's just the way it is. Upon awakening, a precious time. A precious time. People say, I don't know how to meditate. We got the first direction right there. Upon awakening, we think about the 24 hours ahead. It doesn't get any simpler than that. Think about the 24 hours ahead. I've since learned that I can make a short list, of what that looks like. And alongside that list, I make another list of where I'm going to be emotionally needed for the day. And then take on the practice of reading some spiritual literature. It's good stuff. Because I know this drum. I put my hand on the doorknob and I go outside and I get in the car, it's game on. I need to be bolstered up a little bit, because it's constant throughout the day. Who's in my way? Who's not doing this? Who's not doing that? I lived that for so long. So long. I was the guy with an invisible clipboard and an unwritten list of demands. that I was making on you, you, and you. And when you weren't doing what I wanted you to do, when I wanted you to do it, in the manner I wanted you to do it, I was checking that box off. I was getting wrapped a little tighter around that axle, and that restlessness and that irritability and that discontentment that I suffered from on an extreme level would just get cranked up a little more and a little more and a little more until I had to get relief. And it was either from the drinking and outside substances, or when I moved into, well, I'm no longer drinking, but I'm sober, all the other stuff, the money, the gambling, all that crap. And then we move into step 12. Nothing greater ensures immunity from drinking than intensive work with another alcoholic. Every one of us have the privilege to exercise that today. And I mean, it really is a privilege. I don't think there's anything greater than when I sit with another man and he's sitting across my kitchen counter and I tell him why he's been doing what he's been doing time after time and after time in spite of everything that he can throw at it. And I tell him and give him the facts of why he's doing that. And he looks at me and goes, "You got to be kidding me." There's nothing greater than that. Because it's at that moment that the light of God comes on in his eyes. And I get to walk shoulder to shoulder with that man, taking him through the process. And I see that fire grow just a little bit at a time. And I see that frown turn upwards into a smile. And I see those shoulders straighten up. And he's no longer looking at somebody's feet. He's no longer looking at somebody's belt buckle. He's looking you in the eye. And he starts to become a man of integrity. That's whole, undivided from his Creator, and walking with a level of purity. There is nothing that can compare to that. And just me and having the privilege of doing that, I have a sense of usefulness today that I had never, ever thought that I would have in my life. And it's available to every one of us. Let me wrap it up with this, and I'll just say that for those of you who've had an experience as a result of doing the work out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I thank you deeply from the bottom of my heart. And I also ask you, based on the experience that you had, please latch on to somebody who has not had that experience and walk with them. Live an inconvenient life. Because if you're living an inconvenient life, you're not living that life on self-will. You're doing God's will. You're taking the greatest gift that we're born with, I think, is free will. And you're using it to do His will. And take that man or that woman through this deal. And watch them light up. And watch them take another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. Because we so desperately need you in the trenches. That's the truth. That's the truth. I got a little grandson, don't we? And he's coming up on 4 years old. And, if he needs a seat, I really want it to be here and available for him. And at the end of the day, this has nothing to do with what I've done. It's all about what God's love has done for me. Thanks.
Epic call. Let's thank Dain one more time, please. Sorry for running over a little bit. Our speakers come here at their own time and their own expense. Came all the way down from Connecticut. It's customary for us to at least form a line, thank him personally for his sacrifice on his own time to come out here. Next week we got a treat for you. We have a musician from Aaa. From Chicago, JMA, he's going to come out. He's not only going to tell a story, but he's going to put on some kind of recovery music that he writes. It's pretty cool. I've yet to ever do this. It's going to be a little different, so hope to see you there. We got a nice way of closing. It's meeting after the meeting.